Hey Dana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Radhika?
I'm good. So let's just dive straight in. You want to begin by introducing yourself, Dana?
Yeah, sure. So I am a 36-year-old mom of two. I'm also a partner at my wealth management firm and met you, Radhika, earlier this year, right before the pandemic hit, and it's been incredibly helpful, and I really appreciate all that you've done to help me grow and thrive.
I love hearing that. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more for the benefit of people hearing? So let's just start by understanding where and sharing with people who are listening to this, who are probably on the fence. Where were you at that time when you came to me? And where do you think you're today, like from a perspective of health, mindset perspective? And I mean, as far as I remember, it's in the last 7 months when you came and you had some food sensitivity, some fatigue and stress, and your goals were around all of those and general wellness. But do you want to share
Yeah,
how you felt at that point and how do you feel now?
for sure. So when I gave birth to my daughter about 4 years ago, through that process, I learned that she had a dairy allergy, and so I gave up dairy. Also, did it with my son, and somehow I developed a dairy allergy as well. And I was kind of stuck in this position where I don't eat a lot of meat, and then I also couldn't eat dairy, and it just felt like everything was so restricted. And what it was causing me to do is go on these sugar binges where I would just, eat really unhealthy vegan food. And so it was incredibly helpful and important to me to try to get centered and realigned on what I was allowed to eat and what my body was comfortable with. And so, knowing what I know now, I can certainly point to my diet as being a major contributor to my mood swings, and also just really like struggling with getting rid of those last few pounds, and then also fatigue.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely seem in a better place from when we started. But what were some of the most rewarding shifts that you had working with me, according to you?
Yeah, so I think that in the beginning we really focused on diet, and so that was kind of where things started, but then it evolved into a much more holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I really can't say how impressive you are at helping me change my patterns and my behaviors, because it's not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
But now, today, I start every morning with my morning ritual, with good hydration, and really just try to get to a place where I feel centered, so that when my day starts and the kids are screaming or something goes wrong at work, I can just handle it, and I feel like I'm in a much better place to just kind of let things roll off
Mm-hmm.
and respond as opposed to react.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's like the ripple effect, right? Kind of transcends into all areas of your life and beings in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That. And then what do you think was, I also, before I go ahead, I like that you mentioned about the behavior change, because a lot of people don't really understand the impact of working with a coach, because you have all this information online, almost to the point that there's like this information overload, but people just get that dopamine by just listening to a audio or a podcast or liking a post on Instagram, but they don't really act on it. And it's really that fine line between getting inspired and feeling good about it and not taking action. But I think that's what you highlighted when working with a coach like me helps you actually act on it and also discover what is your cadence and what do you enjoy doing, and towards the whole process of working towards your goals, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's always a lot of plans out there, and this idea that you can do things, but people, and at least I'll speak for myself, I've always struggled with the implementation. And so, what was really helpful about working with you specifically is that you held me accountable. If I was struggling with something, then we would kind of work through it together. And I hear your voice in my head as I kind of go throughout my day, and it's really helpful. And I feel like I was much more engaged by working with somebody as opposed to just reading a book, which, I've also done, but this was really the first time where things stuck. I made some really significant and big changes that I think will have lasting effects.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so taking from that, what would you think when you like first met me, or even before you thought about it, like what was your main concern before, hiring a coach? Just again, for the benefit of anyone who's thinking about hiring a coach, but they have some fears or they don't want to invest. Like, why would you having done this now, and doing it now the second time around, why would you have chosen coaching over anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a big financial commitment, and that's something that I take very seriously. And it's kind of hard, right? You're taking a leap into the unknown. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. Wasn't sure if I was going to really have that strong connection with you. But with that said, I think it is worthwhile because first and foremost, it's you giving yourself that permission to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's been really incredibly helpful. You think about the cost of some of the things that I spend in my life, like exercise classes or shoes or whatever. And the reality is that those might have a short-term impact, where you might get a little bit of a boost, but something like this really kind of stays with you. And I do love that ripple effect because I think, through my good example, and I still have room for improvement, but my husband has also gotten to some of my good habits, and it's been really fun to do it together. And I also think it's had a really good impact on, my broader family, where if I'm struggling with my kids or other family members, I have a better way to kind of stay centered, and they hopefully feel that I'm more positive and less reactive.
Yeah, that ripple effect just warms my heart. Just knowing that, like that's not even like our bigger goal, but just unknowingly there's a ripple effect that's touching so many different people who come in touch with you, right? That's beautiful. So the other thing I wanted to understand, and again for the benefit of people hearing, is that, what would you tell that person who's sitting on the fence and, even now is just thinking that what would this be like? Like, how would this look like if I were to hire a coach? What would you tell that person to do right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, are you curious about the specifics and how we work together, just so people get a little more insight into the process? Or
sure. I think, yeah, it's because it's so individualized and people are used to like, okay, I want to lose weight or reduce my body fat, or I have, this hormone concern. And yes, we do all the functional testing, but people think that it might be like this, very tailor-made, whereas it is actually a tailor-made approach. People think that it's like extremely defined and general, whereas it's actually really unique to the individual, right? As you have seen, it's unique to your lifestyle, your work, down to your children, your work environment and things like that. So,
yeah, for sure. I think that is, it's a good point, because I always appreciate and love that you give me the space to kind of bring things to you. And then if I don't have things, then you'll raise them. But what's really nice is that it is that custom approach where it feels like you're trying to give me like trickle in new ideas. And then as I adapt them, then we kind of build on it going forward. And so we meet weekly. And we also have a lot of communication in between. I think you're incredible with follow-up. So whenever we talk about things and you want to provide some resources, I know that you've been very responsive and you usually give those to me either same day or next day. You've helped me in just so many different ways that I wasn't expecting. I initially thought it was just going to be about nutrition, and I was just going to be texting you pictures of what I was eating and kind of journaling about how my body was responding. But then it really, what I quickly learned was that I could use you and have you help me with other areas of my life. And so that's been incredibly helpful. And so then our conversations have moved towards, am I getting enough sleep? Am I considering some other anti-inflammatories? What does my environment look like? How am I trying to start my day and end my day? All of those pieces, I think, are so incredibly important and have mattered a ton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that you highlighted that you thought it would be, and that's how everyone probably thinks. And it's nice for you to share that it's not just limited to sharing your photographs of what you're eating, but it's so much more beyond that. And I mean, it's all of that, and it's really going deep as well. And that's how you build, that momentum for yourself, because you see the results, and then you have this person who that you then develop trust with, working with, that you can then bring everything to the table. So thank you for sharing that. And then you also, and I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, that you signed up to work with me again. So what prompted you to do that? I mean, we worked for 12 sessions and then you signed up. Do you want to share a little bit about that next level of goals that you felt you could work with me?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, sure you can hear my German Shepherd back. She's very sweet, I swear. Yeah, I think that I just really loved having this space to kind of, think about what I wanted to do with my business goals and then my personal goals.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I've always kind of thought about it is you have like kind of a pie, and so you only have so much time, and half the time, maybe 80% of my time, if I'm honest, is just trying to get the day-to-day done, right? And so it feels like you're very much in sort of that that management mode where you're just trying to tick off your task list.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other part of the pie, which I've now been able to expand and make bigger, is more of that planning and strategic side of things, where you've been able to help me carve out that time for both myself personally to try to plan ahead for my personal life, and then also for my my business goals. And my career goals. And I think that has been a really influential piece, just to say, you're allowed to do that, and you're allowed to think strategically, and you're allowed to say, like, what do you want to do, and make time for it. And so you've been a great partner for that.
Mm-hmm. And it's been an honor supporting you, and it's been inspiring to see you also move through all the pieces of your life. And just lastly, before we culminate this, what do you think has surprised you most, or made you the most like really happy about working with me, which you didn't really think about, was something you would benefit from working with a coach? And I know you've mentioned a lot of that, but was there anything that you haven't probably which surprised you? Anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably that the forming good habits has been the most, right? So, I spent my whole life doing things a certain way. It's really hard to kind of untrain yourself. So it's been incredibly helpful to just have a new baseline. I think especially going into motherhood and then trying to, juggle job plus kids and family, that's hard. And you kind of just are getting by for a while. And so this has been a great opportunity for me to kind of say, okay, what do I want my day to look like? What are those good habits that I want to begin with? And so I would say, first and foremost, that's been the most surprising at how impactful it's been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the little things that really make it really impactful, more than we ever thought. It surprises me as well, so I'm not surprised. Yeah, like it surprises me how just a small task can have such a huge impact, and I see it every day with my clients, and it's extremely rewarding. Thank you, Dana. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to continuing working with you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Radhika.
Oops.